Hard to build, manage, support, sell, continue to evolve a product over time, right? It takes a lot of developers, it takes managers, it takes QA people who find bugs, it takes users to pay for the product to use it, right? So it takes all of these pieces and they're all giving input. And you need to be able to have a way to communicate, whether it's to a user. You can't just say, click that thing over there. One of my favorite examples is, these were back in the days where they had modems. You guys remember modems? And Windows had an icon called My Computer. And the guy was on support, and he was trying to walk the user to hanging up the modem. And he's like, click on My Computer and select hang up. And the person took him literally, and he was on the phone, so he tapped his computer and hung up the phone, right? He said, I did what you said, right? So you have to be able to communicate at different levels, whether it's highly technical with one of your peers or very sort of broad with someone that may not be super verbose with technology. And that's where soft skills come into play. You know, for this person, he's like, how would you be a great addition to our team, right? What kind of other skills can you provide more than just being really good at databases or really good at HTML? Because there's a lot of people that are good at specific technologies, but if you can't communicate, if you can't work with other people, it's hard to find a role that you can be successful in.
How many people do you have typically working on a project?
So there's several flavors. At Tabula Rasa Healthcare, what we do is really work in what we call two pizza teams. You ever heard of that phrase?
I heard the two pizza.
Okay, so what it means is however many people you can feed two pizzas with is the right size for your team. If you have to buy a third pizza, then your team's too large, right? So we tend to follow that model. Others follow different models. There's some companies that have 60, 80 developers working on products. Some that have a couple hundred developers. Facebook has, I think, 5,000, 6,000 developers working. Yeah.
So I guess the size of the developer team all depends on the size of the company.
To some degree, and the complexity of the product, right? If you're familiar with something like Twitter, you might think, well, that's a pretty simple product, but the size and volume they do, they have over millions of users, if not billions of users, and the size of volume and data, it takes a significant amount of developers to continue to work on that. Netflix, the same way. But then if you have maybe a smaller product like, for example, Basecamp, or something that's a word processor or a content management system, you may have smaller teams. So it really, the size of the company is one way, but really it's more of the complexity from both a scale standpoint and feature standpoint. Again, it's pretty relative, but for the most part, most teams I would say would be anywhere from 4 to 10 developers on average in a substantial product. Now, if you get into startup land, 2 developers, maybe 1 developer, and things like that.